Pop quiz, hot shot. The bus is going 55 miles an hour. It's barreling right towards you, and now you've got to figure out how smart are your marketing goals? How quickly can you pull this off? Hey everybody, it's Trigby from BizzyWeb. Today we're going to be talking about smart marketing goals. We're going to be talking about how the best way that you can put some goals together and then start really achieving great marketing. So if you're new to the BizzyWebinar, welcome. We are a full-service growth marketing agency based here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. We have all sorts of bona fides that we're super proud of. One of the things that we are the most proud of is that we are now a HubSpot Solutions Partner Platinum level. That was a hard thing to do, and we're very excited about it. But in addition to that, we also are grow with Google High Impact Partner and have all sorts of Constant Contact awards as well. So my name is Trigby. I'm the Director of Business Development here. And so here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about SMART goals. This is going to be one of those acronym things that is going to, as marketers, is going to absolutely make your life better as we go through it. So this is the webinar for you. If you've worked in marketing for a long time, it's kind of hard to prove out your return on investment, or your sales team is complaining about the lack of good leads or just leads in general. And you've always got to fight for more budget, and you always want to do more things, but you've got to fight for more budget. If so, this is hopefully going to be the webinar for you. So what SMART goals at the end of this should do is help you strategize. I felt like I was going to mispronounce that and say strategize. And then it all sounded weird. So strategize about what needs to happen, agree with other departments about what they can expect from the marketing department, and to customize your approach to every step of the buyer's journey. We'll get into that today. So, all right, are you ready? Before we get started, for those of you who came a little bit late, if you could just enter in the chat pane that you can hear me okay, just so that I've got everything set up correctly, I would sure appreciate it. You can get the chat pane by scrolling to the bottom of your window. And it looks like Evan can hear me. Where's Evan from? Oh, perfect. Vericore. Great to see you again, Evan. And Jody and Ruth, thanks for joining as well. And Amanda, thanks for sticking with me through all this. All right, here come the speed jokes. Here we go. Ready? Here's how I'm going to break this down today. Number one, we're going to talk about what it takes to be a marketer today, especially in the corporate world. Number two, I'll break down what each element of SMART goals are and help you take your company goals a little bit further. Fourth, I'll help you set some KPI, which stands for key performance indicators for measuring. And then finally, help you analyze your performance for next steps. Here we go. What is it like to being a marketer today? Here's a sticker that we have floating around our office that we think is about as apt as possible. It's being a marketer is easy. It's just like riding a bike, except the bike's on fire and you're on fire and everything's on fire. By the way, I didn't really mention this at the beginning, but if you're joining me in real time and you want to stop me and have me answer any questions you might have, just feel free and enter them in the chat pane. I am monitoring the chat pane as we do this, and I'd be more than happy to stop what I'm doing and answer any questions you might have. Make this seminar your own, make it as valuable as you need it to be. So, okay, so being a marketer, it's great, it's fun, it's creative, it's masterful, and it's also super duper stressful. So why is it stressful? It's because you might be held to a goal that you might not have any say in creation of, or you might be responsible for the sales team's success, but not actually get credit for it. Oh, and by the way, here's how it works. So you sit down, you figure out your marketing plan, you figure out your tactics for the next calendar year. You set a budget, you ask for your budget, you get half your budget, and then you get to start working on the marketing plan. And it's great, and it's fun, and it's creative, except sales now needs something new that you didn't budget for. Oops, okay, well, what else? Oh, and management now needs something new, and they haven't budgeted for it. And oh, by the way, is it possible for you to jump from a speeding car into a bus with half the budget? Does this resonate with any of you? Because it should, because this happens to all of us in marketing. So, okay, so, well, you know, this is all doable and it's work and it's what we all go through, but what happens then? Okay, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to work on my marketing plan. I'm going to complete the tactics as I outlined in the marketing plan. I'm going to go to trade shows. I'm going to advertise. I'm going to do social media pushes. I'm going to do new literature. It's all going to be great, and the bus is driving itself, and then sales now is complaining about the lead quality, and they want better leads. Well, okay, and then management wants to enhance the branding, but they can't actually define what that means, or they say, let's just make it just something with a little more oomph, something like that. So you have to shift your tactics accordingly. You have to juggle your budget around, and all of a sudden you can't slow down the bus because the bus is going 55 miles an hour, or else everything's going to go sideways. So then, boom, the year ends, and you got to do it all over again, and you've got to jump the ravine once again. So you start the marketing plan, you start the budgeting process, and then management says, well, how'd you do last year? How effective was what you did last year? And you just want to cry because you did so much that was out of scope and so much that was out of budget, and your beautiful plan just went completely awry. And so, okay, well, we're going to present next year's plan, but we're going to be a little smarter, and we're going to prepare for the unexpected. How do we prepare for the unexpected? Because management says, well, how is all of this going to work? And so the cycle continues. So how can we actually break that cycle? How can we get out of the bus and ride a skateboard hugging Keanu Reeves as we coast to safety? How can we do that? Well, that's what our pop quiz today is, hot shots. That's what we're going to try and figure out how to do. What we're going to do is we're going to create SMART goals. By the way, kudos, if any of you know Jen, who works at BizzyWeb, she found an unbelievable amount of speed gifts, and we thank her for that. So corporate goals, marketing goals, they need to complement each other. However, everything that we've just said about how marketers live, it is all about the measurement, and it's all about the proof. So how can we create proof and measurement so that the management team knows how successful we're being? Well, what you want to do is create a SMART goal. And this is going to be one of those acronym things that is actually going to help. And as we break it down, it's going to make a lot of sense. SMART goals is a methodology that helps you establish concrete and achievable goals. The key underlying phrase there is achievable. We absolutely need to have something that we can achieve, because if we don't, then it's just a pie in the sky dream. I would like to quadruple BizzyWeb's business by the 15th of March. That's not actually achievable. So as I'm creating a goal, it actually has to make sense. So SMART goals they're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and timely. So this is how we're going to break all this down today. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. Let's talk about specific. What exactly does a specific goal look like as a general goal? Well, a general goal is something like, I want to achieve more business in 2020. Well, that's great. How much more? I don't know. More is good. I have a pile of money. I want a bigger pile of money. Break it down a little further and make it specific. What do you really need to accomplish, and put a number on it? When is it going to happen? When will it start to take effect? What are the people that will be affected by it? Why is it important to do? Oops, too far. These are the questions that we want to ask ourselves when we're talking about specific goals and making sure that our goal is clear. Again, if we're having a specific goal, later we're going to talk about relevance and achievability, but we want to start with, we want to achieve a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's a big number to put on the board, or a big thing that we haven't really figured out how to do yet, but we'll get there. But all of that has to be in concert with everything else, including measurable. So we need measurements in order to ensure that we're staying on track. To put this another way, if we're trying to figure out which of the people who are on this webinar, which one of you is the fastest, the only way that I can do that is by lining you up and having you run the same race and measure how long it takes. And the amount that you run has to be the same. I could have one of you run 2 miles and one of you run 50 yards, and the 50-yarder is always going to be faster. So we need to ensure that the measurements are good in order to stay on track. So what's my baseline from last year? If I'm trying to grow and build something new, I mean, ostensibly, if you really want to have less, I don't know, we're probably not a good fit and we can't help you. But if you want more, okay, what's your baseline from last year? How much did you get last year on your specific topic? And then how much should it increase? I made the joke just a second ago, but it is possible that if you got too many of something that you couldn't handle, it's important to figure out how to throttle down in an achievable way. You can't just stop doing it because otherwise the bus is going to explode, but how can you slow it down so that it's manageable? And then how am I really going to know when I achieve my goal? Well, in order to do that, we really need to put a number on it. Here's the kicker in all this, though. It has to be achievable. Goals have to stretch your abilities. It's not something that we want to, say. It's not something that isn't really a real goal. Like, I'm a big guy. A New Year's resolution for me should not be eating more chocolate, because that's easy enough to do, but that doesn't stretch my abilities. And of course, it's possible. So questions when you're talking about your achievability of your goals are things like, what are the tactics that I can use from the goals? Is this something where I have to learn a new skill, buy a new piece of software, and then you have to implement the new piece of software? Or is it something that we can do in-house or leverage a specific partner for? How much of an increase is a realistic increase? Again, this isn't a question of all the more is better. We have to do it in a way that we can actually have the people who are supporting us and actually fulfilling all of our orders and doing the things that we're selling and marketing towards. We actually have to give them the opportunity to breathe a little. So we can't just dump 4 times the amount of work on them. So what are some of the external factors that could impede success? Some of that could be production. Some of that could be the coronavirus, meaning it's hard to get products or it's hard to get labor. It could be that your competition is just hands down better than you and they are just cleaning your clock and there's no way you can get around that. Well, if that's the case, then it's important to realize that as you're talking about the achievability of your goals. Next, we want to be relevant. Your goals have to be relevant to you in ways that you can actually control and have some way in to put your finger on the scale, but it also needs to further the company goals. So the easiest way to describe that is through revenue. So if the company's made X and through your efforts have gotten them to Y, then that's a relevant goal. So you've actually helped achieve that gap. So when we're talking about relevance, we're talking about, is this the right time? The important thing to remember here is this something that I have to do right now, or is this something that we're not ready for, or we can do maybe later? So actually asking about the timing is very, very important. And does this really match other needs? If you're talking about instituting a new software program, it needs to help in more than one place. And if it happens to help on the marketing front, great, but it also needs to also help in other places, because what we're really talking about is putting our people through pain. And the pain has to be less than the achievable value of doing it. So if you're telling your people, I want you to do this thing, and at the end it's going to be great, then that's a relevant goal that they can believe in. And finally, do we have the right team available to accomplish that? And that's a hard question to ask because everybody generally likes the people they work with, otherwise you wouldn't work there. But sometimes you really have to take a good hard look at people's skill sets and really figure out, are they the right people to accomplish that goal? So for instance, I personally am very bad at minutia of details. I'm really good at big picture stuff. I'm really good at 10,000 foot levels, but if you get down into managing the minutia of data, I can do it, but boy, does it make my mind wander. And when I wander, I tend to get cranky, and then the people I work with don't like that. But if you've got the right people, the right butt in the right seat, then that's a great relevant goal. And finally, is it applicable in the marketplace? So is this something that's relevant to the audience that you're talking to? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so we've gone through S, M, A, R, and then finally T, timeline. Everybody needs a goal. Every goal needs a date. Otherwise, how will you know when you're finished? So as we're talking about that race that I'm going to make all of you run, the start and the finish, we have to measure from when somebody started and when somebody's finished. So those are questions like, what can I do by the end of quarter 1 or quarter 2 or quarter 3 or quarter 4? Will it take more than a year to accomplish? If so, then I can't have that be part of my SMART goals for this year. It has to be a 3 or a 5-year plan goal. How long did it take to get where we're at now? So if all the iterations of everything that you've done have taken 10, 12, 15 years, it's really hard to be able to jam a whole bunch of new work or a whole bunch of new things or new initiatives in a small amount of time in order to achieve a goal. And more importantly, how far did we get in the last year or two? That's really a good benchmark of your marketing, is where were we 2 years ago and then where are we now? So that should tell you about your team's ability, within a certain amount, and also tell you what you can achieve. So the key thing here with timeliness as well is if you've got a seasonality of your business. So one of our favorite clients that we work with, the seasonality of their business is such that the fourth quarter of the calendar year is just bonkers for them. It's cuckoo bananas, and everything that we do in the first 3 quarters of the year has to tee them up for as much success as possible in the fourth quarter. But that's also something that the converse of that is we can't just start marketing on October 1st. We have to plan ahead and let our marketing permeate so that by the time October 1st rolls around and our favorite client is hitting all of the benchmarks and they're going into banana season, they're really realizing the fruit of our labors. And boy, that was a really clever thing I did just there, and I wish I'd planned it, but I'm going to take credit for planning it. Okay. In order to really accomplish this and understand how to create a SMART goal, there are a couple of foundational pieces that we really need to put together first. First of all is knowing the persona of the people that you're selling to. So in order to do that, what we do at BizzyWeb is we create, and this isn't unique to us, it's a marketing thing, but if you don't have it, you should absolutely do it, is creating buyer personas. So what that is, it's a fictional representation of who we're trying to sell to as a client. We've got some real data, it's got some fictionalized data, it's got some educational guesses, but it's a deep analysis of who they are as a person. It's got who they are from a motivational standpoint, where they're being influenced, what their fears are and frustrations, and even what their personality types are. So once you understand that and understand how much you can leverage by dealing with those people, then that starts to roll up into goals. Next, we also have to understand their journey that they take. And this is a good representation of what a buyer's journey looks like right now, given the market in 2020. And you can see it's a monster roller coaster. And there's many different parts that goes in it. So we have to ask ourselves, how does our persona of our best customer, how do they fit into this model? And what's the positioning and the path that they take when they're considering a purchase? How do they do this? By and large, even in a business-to-business environment now, 90% of most of the people who are making business buying decisions are doing so based on internet research. So things like understanding word of mouth, things like what they see, reviews, blogs, informational articles, all of that is absolutely relevant. So the question then becomes, how does your marketing support each step in the process? And if you're really great, you're doing a lot of this. If you're not, you're probably doing some of this, but all of it tends to be relevant in the ecosystem of your marketing planning. So it's always fun to talk about what goals should not be. And this is usually what happens when a C-level person comes in and tells you what you should do, because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And some of these are kind of fun, like, well, I want you to increase revenues by 1,500% this year. Well, that's great if you made 20 bucks last year and you could get it to 225. That's probably doable, and that's probably easy enough to do. But then what? Well, not so much. Or I want to work towards being the market share leader in our industry. I don't really know what that means. and I don't really know how to qualify it, and I don't really know how do I become the market share leader in our industry. So that's not really a great goal. Or we'll get more people to understand our value proposition. Well, how many is more? You're talking about my mom? I can get my mom to understand our value proposition. Does that mean that we achieved our goals? No, there needs to be qualifiable numbers on it. We need to work smarter, not harder this year. Well, that doesn't really mean anything, and everybody knows. Enhance our trade show presence. Well, enhance it by what? Are we gonna, have a blimp and drop stuff on people? Are we gonna have rock music? What exactly does that mean? And what's the value proposition of it? If we're not tying it into an end achievable goal, what's the point? Oh, we need to find more leads for sales. Okay, great. So I'll give all of you my mom's name. Did I find you more lead for sales? Well, no. I mean, yeah, kind of, because my mom's technically a lead, but she's not going to buy from you. So did I really do my job? Well, not really. Or use our website more to be a first touch for a salesperson. Well, that's great, and that's a good idea in theory, and that's something that I would encourage all of you to do. However, how do you measure that, and how do you know whether or not your website's actually giving you anything of value? Oh, and yeah, post more often on social media. Why? To what end? Okay, so here's what they actually should look like. So I want to increase the amount of views on our homepage by 200% by the end of quarter 3. That's an achievable, measurable, attainable goal. Or I want to decrease our bounce rate 15% on blog pages by adding CTAs to other relevant topics. That even includes a tactic, which is great. Or I want to increase our pay-per-click ad conversions by 2% by the end of the year. Great goal. When we go to trade shows, I'm going to increase badge scans in our trade show booths this year by, let's say 30%, by inviting people through various channels before the show. Great goal, easily smart. Or say that 75% of customers who buy from us are in our target market by the end of the year. That's great. As a salesperson who's gone through that, and that's so great because that wasn't a whole lot of fun, but it's a smart move and it's a smart thing to do and it's absolutely achievable. Or get new software to reduce our time spent reporting by an aggregate of 5 hours per week by the end of quarter 2. Again, if you're going to put somebody through a journey, it has to give them value at the end. So how do you create a template? Well, to start with, how do you actually start doing this? Well, the best way to do is start with a template. So I'm going to actually send you a Smart Marketing Goals template at the end of this if you've signed up. And if not, I'll have my contact information at the end. You should absolutely hit me up for that. So here's some of the questions you want to ask yourself. What's your overall goal? What are the marketing needs to feed that goal? Put a number to that goal. And then analyze your current situation, figure out a reasonable time frame, and really talk about what your biggest challenges are and can you influence on those. Keep in mind, again, I'm going to give you this. So your company goals should help take this further. So your company strategic goals for things like ROI and revenue and efficiency are all part of SMART goals, because that actually helps keep everyone on the same page. If you're showing the measurement of what you're doing, not only in marketing, but really in everything, but it helps actually create buy-in with management. So if they give you sort of one of those nebulous goals and you say, okay, I'm going to do this in a smart way, here's my numbers, then they really know that you're listening in and you're actually looking to achieve something. The company goals do always pertain to marketing. It's not a conditional thing. It always pertains to marketing. So each year, companies create strategic goals for the new year. And okay, fine. It's important to know what those goals are, because marketing almost always has to support them in some way or another. This is where to start your SMART goal has to start, is what's the company's objective for this year? If you haven't set a company objective, it's probably not a good place to start. But if you've got one that's been pushed down from the C-level or one that you can help create, absolutely. That's where you start. Then the second question is the marketing goal. So What are some typical company goals with marketing? Well, things like revenue, things like profitability, things like efficiency, creating new products, new technologies, new partnerships, things like that. What some marketing goals are as a converse to that is, or as a lead through from that is, okay, so the corporate goal is revenue, a marketing goal is more leads for sales. A corporate goal is profitability, our marketing goal is marketing spend is data driven. So everything that we spend is value based on a value proposition. For efficiency, things like having tech makes jobs easier. If we're going to roll out a new product, great, let's have a launch plan associated with that so we can tell whether or not it's successful. Partnerships, again, leveraging and marketing the relationships so we figure out where is the partnership that bears the most fruit. Now here's the key and here's the kicker for every one of us who are in a tactical job where we actually have to accomplish something. Showing that you measure buys you credibility and it creates buy-in. So if you've got a little blip, you can point to your numbers and say, here's how they've been trending. You do that by monitoring your KPI progress each month to prove you're on top of it. We've all had those scenarios where somebody above us is saying, well, I don't really get it. Well, great. In order to make them get it or cover your butt, you create KPIs that lead into a SMART goal. And that's what we're going to do next. So we're creating marketing goal measurements. So the next step is, here are the goals that we came up with on that last slide. So here are some of our marketing goals. How do we measure that? Well, for sales, we want new leads. Okay, well, how many? What type of lead? What industry are they in? We want to make our marketing spend more data-driven. Okay, what's our click-through rate? What's our conversion rate? We want new tech to make jobs easier. Super. How are our people utilizing it? And can we measure that in hours or days? If we're talking about new efficiencies, again, or launch plans, create the plan, figure out when we're actually going to get an expected return. And leveraging and marketing the relationships, again, how many leads did we get from that? And what was the value that we got from those over the time spent? Some of the other possible measurements that you might want to look at, things like website traffic, the bounce rate, click-through rate, form fills, booth traffic, booth leads, calls from a specific number or calls to a specific number, number of assets that you created versus number of assets were actually downloaded, how many people came to a training, how many people came to a workshop, how did your audience grow, how did you get new leads in your target market, is your keywords playing in search. All of those are potential marketing measurements. Now here comes the not fun part. So I'm going to stop here a second and take a breath and take a drink and remind everybody, if they've got a question that they want to ask, you can put it in the chat pane. I'll be more than happy to answer it. Woo! All right. Doesn't look like there's any questions yet. Feel free and ask one at any time if you got one. So, okay. Nobody likes doing this. This is not the fun part, but it is the part that saves you your bacon later. So a KPI is a key performance indicator of how you're doing your job well. Each specific industry has different needs. Each job within a company might have different needs and different ways of different KPIs. So the overall goal of having a KPI is to be able to track and analyze as to whether or not you're achieving your goals. So my day-to-day job is business development at BizzyWeb. So one of the things that I know is that if my sales team, if their call volume falls off, about 4 to 6 weeks out, I'm going to have a revenue problem. So I'm able to actually figure out, based on trending, if we're going to have a problem with our goals. And most importantly, everybody loves cookies. Everybody loves gold stars. Figure out how there's a satisfaction involved in figuring out how close you are to your goals. If you have that and understand how much of a race you need to run, you know when you're done, and you can pat yourself on the back with hopefully some success. So what are some things to watch and some KPIs in order to help you build your smart marketing goals? Well, if you're working in the areas of digital, one of the best ones is your website. Things like traffic, things like bounce rate, how long people are staying there, how many page views they have, how many new users versus returning visitors that they have. All of that goes into figuring out the overall health of the website and the health of the digital plan. If you don't have any users, it's really hard to do anything else. If they're not staying very long, it's really hard to put them on a buyer's journey. SEO metrics is another huge one. This is one that is particularly annoying to me because there are a lot of people in my business who try and sell this in a way that doesn't actually make a whole lot of sense. So they try and sell you on the idea of having a #1 ranking, but really what's the most important thing is how much traffic do you get from your rankings. So if you have, one of the things that we've done at BizzyWeb is if you Google the phrase purple monkey dinosaur, you'll actually find BizzyWeb. It's one of our best #1 rankings. But the phrase purple monkey dinosaur has no actual relevance to our business, and having that #1 ranking doesn't make us any money. It's just to prove a point that the traffic, because why is that? It's because nobody's actually looking for a purple monkey dinosaur. So why do we do that? It's to prove the point that the #1 is not the important thing as much as the traffic is the most important thing. So in order to understand that, we need to understand how much traffic are we getting from different keyword and key phrases. And how does our site health relate to the overall search engine optimization? What I mean by that is there's what's known as break fixes, and it's a terrible name because your site's never really broken, but what happens is every 2 weeks, Google will change its search algorithm. And they don't tell anybody that they've done it, and they don't tell anybody what the change is. All you can see is suddenly your search ranking changes. So in order to maintain search ranking, if this is a big part of your business, you have to consistently and constantly go in and tweak your website in order to maintain health with Google. And I use Google sort of arbitrarily as, or interchangeably, I should say, as search engines, but Google's really about 95% of the overall search market. Website content, website blog metrics. Again, if you're putting out new content, you're doing new things. How many people are looking at it? How many people are reading it? How many people are coming back to read more things? How long are they staying? If you're providing them a call to action, how many people are clicking on it? These are all things that we want to watch and be aware of as we're creating KPIs for our marketing. Also with social media, we want to look at our audience growth and our interactions. That's the big thing. Anybody can see something, but really the game starts when we start actually interacting with people. So things like sessions, things like shares, things like traffic back to the site, those are really the money numbers when it comes to social media. With email, it's pretty simple, but it's like poker. It's pretty simple, but it's hard to do. A couple of things that are most important: the click rate, the open rate, audience growth. Those are the 3 most important things. You also want to keep in mind if you're unsubscribed, if somebody's left a job or if they just are suddenly not interested in you anymore, you'd probably get a higher unsubscribe rate. But you can see in this particular one, we had a great 99% delivery with only 2 unsubscribes, which is perfect. Great numbers. If you're doing pay-per-click campaigns, a couple of things that you want to keep in mind is the most important is the conversions and the click-through rate. So if you're getting a high conversions and a high click-through rate, then the cost per click probably doesn't matter a whole lot. I mean, obviously for budgeting it does, but you're willing to probably spend more on customer acquisition. You also want to keep in mind of impressions as a secondary goal, but the first 2 are the most important, as well as your cost per click to make sure that you are staying within budget. Downloads are great. It's one of the things we're known for at BizzyWeb is creating amazing downloads for our customers. When we create a download, really what we're doing is it's a give-get proposition. What we want to do is say, okay, if you give me your email and tell me about your interest level, I will give you something to help you. So in order to do that, you need to measure things like new contacts versus old contacts, how many people are submitting, how long they're staying on a page, whether or not they're actually opening the download and doing something with it. Overall, from a campaign standpoint, we want to talk about things like how many new sessions did we get, how many new contacts, did we get closed deals? And if you're not measuring a campaign down to that level in order to get to closed deals, again, you're just talking about piles of money and moving from one side to the other. It's like that old pyramid game where you have to move all the blocks from one peg to another. So how do you analyze your performance for your next steps? How do you really do that? Well, first of all, keep an eye on what your KPIs are and create a KPI list for you. That'll be part of the template that I gave you. Track them monthly, track them quarterly, and don't get into analysis paralysis. That's one of our fun words that we use at BizzyWeb, where you're constantly looking at the numbers and trying to figure out on a micro level, if you do one thing, how will your numbers have that butterfly effect and change to the positive? Some of this is put the numbers away, do some stuff, and then go back to the numbers. So the dashboarding, I kind of put this in the wrong order, but the dashboarding is fantastic because I want to show you how that actually relates. And I'm going to do that in just a minute. So when you take your KPIs to analysis, the easiest thing to do is create a dashboard. What you create, and I'll show you a good example on how to do that, but it helps you track your progress month to month. And we can always get inundated with paper when we're doing this sort of deep analysis. So to have those numbers at the abstract level, to be able to look at one page and understand what a month looks like is fantastic. Give access to your manager so that your manager can understand all the things and all the minutia that you're getting into. They might not understand any of it, but it sure is going to prove that you're on top of the game. It can also help for seasonality and account for sales cycles. So if you are working on, let's say like a landscaping business, boy, you really should have started marketing by the beginning of last year in January, because it's going to take time to permeate and it's going to take time for the sales cycle as well, so that by the time June rolls around where it's actually nice out, then great things are happening. And it'll also help keep your goals top of mind. So here's an example of a dashboard that we've done. So you can see that this gets massively micro very, very fast, but it helps really understand the overall health of a particular campaign and everything that we're doing in order to achieve an actual goal. So the goals you can see here are laid out. So like we want to have this many goals. How many did we get over the year? So it actually helps measure the difference to goal. So you're always constantly improving your goal. So again, if we're talking about a race, it's great to know when you're halfway through. So how are you halfway through with your marketing KPIs and your marketing goals? That's what the value of this dashboard does. Start with your baseline data. Again, all the things that have happened before you started measuring. So in this particular instance, I've got a couple of things there for social media. Okay, great. So now what we're looking to do is grow from that. So if we said in the last 12 months, we have 122 LinkedIn followers and we got 5 more in July, that's great. That's on our goal. We obviously want to get more, but we're getting there to the positive. And calculate it on the month. Again, you can get really deep into trying to figure out on a daily basis how this works, but it eventually you just have to drive the car. I used to drive a Toyota Prius. It was a great car. It was fantastic and got tremendous gas mileage. But the problem was that it was so much fun to try and get great gas mileage that oftentimes that's what you were focused on, to the detriment of the car experience on the whole. If you don't know where to start, gather the last 2 years of data and then figure it out what your achievable targets are from there. Also keep in mind the source data, where you're actually getting these interactions from, and tally those monthly. So enter in the goal and then figure out how are you getting to there. It should take you about 30 minutes or less to actually do that data. And then roll up to that, all of that into a scorecard. So you can actually share with your C-level, your bosses, anybody else on your team, how you're comparing your baseline, how you're comparing a goal, and then you can actually calculate out and start to forecast monthly and quarterly sales seasonalities as well. And then you can actually roll them back up to the bigger picture, back to the C-level goals of things like growing our social media presence. Okay, great. By doing that, we've gone from the micro level, now we're at the macro level. And Amanda, you said, will you be able to share any of these spreadsheets later? Yes, I'd be able to. Yes, I'd be able to share the deck. 2, I'll also be able to share the recording if you want to share this with somebody else. And then 3, it should be part of the template that I sent you. And then finally, celebrate your success. If you really have achieved your goal, your company should be richer for it, your people should be happier, and you should be able to take a victory lap around the bus and have everybody cheer you on. So here's everything we went through today. Being a marketer today, what does it actually look like? Number 2, I broke down SMART goals for you and how to actually achieve them. 3, how to take your company goals a little bit further, setting your KPIs for measurement, and then finally analyzing your performance to figure out where you go from here. Really appreciate everybody showing up. So in order to do that, like I said, I'm going to provide you with the SMART Marketing Goals template that I shared. You'll get an email about this later today. It'll help you summarize your marketing goals, calculate your need, and help you set some deadlines. Next month, we're doing a movie thing. Today, this was our speed thing. So next month, we're going to do Say Anything, how to create a content strategy framework. This is actually vitally important in this day and age of digital marketing. So I'd encourage all of you to sign up and attend if you haven't already. You can go to BizzyWeb.com/events to get in there. And that'll be Wednesday, April the 1st, I promise. Even though sometimes I get pranky and I have a reputation for that, no pranks. This is just going to be good information, no silliness. So here's my contact information. If you have questions or if you want anything from me in terms of data or knowledge, I am actually embarrassed to say that I'm actually wearing that shirt today too, but I look a little better in it, fortunately. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate you listening and hopefully laughing in politely. But if you have any questions, please feel free and reach out to me. Thank you so much for attending our March Busy webinar. I'm looking forward to seeing you down the road.